Hey everyone, in this video, we're going to show you just how to build your own fidget spinner, specifically this triangular one. Our very first step is we want to take out our bearing and then a piece of this elastic tubing. Cut a strip of it maybe 2, 3, or even 4 inches long, and also locate one of the small wooden dowels. We're going to need that here. The ultimate goal here is to stick that tube through the middle of the bearing, but the problem is it can be a little bit hard with just your fingers. That's where the wooden dowel comes in. Go ahead and put the end of that tube towards the middle of the bearing and use that dowel to poke it through, slowly but surely. And once it is through, even it out on both sides, and then we want to trim it because we only really need a tiny portion where we can grab the fidget spinner from. This picture should give a pretty good example of what we're looking for here. And these small popsicle sticks we have for you are going to play a big part. Try to make them into a perfectly even triangle. Take your time here, because the better we can do setting up our shape, the better our fidget spinner will end up working. When you have it lined up where all the sides are even, get out that pencil and trace a few marks where they touch each other. Here's a little bit of a close-up, and our first step is we actually want to hot glue two of them together to form a V, kind of like this. Those lines that we traced are important because we're going to get out our glue gun, put a little bit of hot glue, and glue it down together, lining up exactly where you traced that little line before. Next, let's get out one of our favorite materials, some glue dots, which are a great solution to keep things in place before officially hot gluing them down. To start, all we need is one glue dot, friends, and we want to spread it out nice and flat along the side of the bearing, and then we're going to insert it into the crease of that V. Then go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. After those two glue dots, this is kind of what we should be looking like. Now when it comes to adding that third side and closing off our fidget spinner, that's where things can get a little bit interesting. We say that only because you want to connect it in a way where that third popsicle stick is actually hitting the side of the bearing. If you're not careful, you might put it on the top or the bottom and it's not actually going to connect with the side of the bearing. We say all of that just to let you know to experiment and try a few different orientations to see which one fits your fidget spinner the best. Here's a not so good one and a great one. So as great as those glue dots are, here's kind of what can happen. They're not permanent, so let's go ahead and try to hot glue them on in there. But did you see that mistake? I accidentally got some glue onto the top of the bearing, which is a big no-no, because then it won't spin. One quick note is that part of the supplies you're given is a toothpick. If you want to be more precise with the hot glue, feel free to glue the end of that toothpick and then use that small end of the toothpick to then apply it to the bearing. It's much more precise that way. But not the end of the world by any means. We can go ahead and peel that glue off and then stick the glue gun back in the crevices and get to making it permanent again. And just like with any other projects that you may have done with us, you really do not need too much hot glue, friend. So if we stop this video right now, we would actually have a functioning fidget spinner, but the only problem is it is too light as of right now. We put some weights inside your kit that are part of the materials that you're entitled to build your fidget spinner. Remember our conversation in the last video about angular momentum? Well, it's time to add some of that weight and mass to your device to help give it some of that angular momentum and really get that rotation rolling. Because we may want to mess around with these weights and test out some different combinations, just glue dot them down for now, and once you have everything dialed in, then you can hot glue them on. Do you remember this example from the very beginning of the video? We also wanted to share just a little bit of our process and how we make the square-shaped one. The little circular bearing doesn't exactly fit inside the big square, so we made this little ramp that helps connect it and give it something to latch onto. Our one warning with this one is it does require a little bit bigger of a hand so you don't hit yourself when you go to spin it. Or maybe you could even draw some inspiration from this unique fidget spinner. And friends, we of course always encourage you to decorate your projects and make them your own.